The following is meant for entertainment and educational purposes. It is not meant to establish a doctor-patient relationship. Please consult your mental health provider for your mental health needs. Hello, welcome to Chez Eric, where we talk about psychiatry and religion with a focus on how to apply it to your life. And my name is Dr. Eric. I'm a psychiatrist who happens to be religious, and this is the William James series where we talk about the varieties of religious experience. And in this particular lecture, lectures 14 and 15, we are talking about the value of saintliness, a really interesting topic. At least I find it interesting. I hope you find it interesting because you are watching this after all. Last time we talked about the relationship between William James with where he's talking about dogma and truth and how we want certainty and probabilistic things. And you watch the previous one, it gets pretty complicated. But William James does continue to kind of summarize it a little bit by saying that he understands how upsetting replacing absolute certainty with reasonable probability can be. Okay, but he has very strong reasons for doing so. Firstly, he believes that we cannot attain absolute, uncorruptible, unimprovable truth about things like religion. It just can't be done. Fairly controversial statement, as a lot of people would claim that they do have an absolute, uncorruptible, unimprovable truth about religion. But he says we cannot. Second, he rejects dogma not because he wants chaos everywhere, but rather he fears that if we don't reject dogma, if we don't add this probability element to things, we would lose the truth by having the belief that we have the truth. Because why would you search for more if you believe you have the truth? So that's the thing. And then he also says that we gain more if we take this probabilistic attitude, and history shows it. History shows that the uncertainty has helped us reach a greater level of understanding about the world, and it's just a better way of doing this. And dogmatic theology, dogmatic things that's very, very rigid, has not really shown to be very, very effective in understanding God. So then we have to ask the question, like, how do we judge the value of religious phenomena, right? And this goes back to the difference that William James wants to point out between the institutional religion and the personal religion. Something we discussed a long time ago in lecture 2. So if you did lecture 2 and you went all the way to here, thank you very much. 15 lectures, that's like 13 lectures in between. It's a lot, but we're coming back into the circle. What he found was that when groups are strong enough, they organize themselves and they come together in a church. And history shows that, religious geniuses, mystics, right, produce disciples and followers. And then they come together and they build a church. I mean, there are different names for it, of course. Unfortunately, when the organization comes together, politics and dogmatic rules begin to take form, right? And they begin to contaminate the original religious phenomenon of the original person that was the religious mystic. And this is why there are so many criticisms of the church being hypocritical, tyrannical, cruel, superstitious, things like that. It's because they're all coming together in a group, and human nature takes over, and people need rules and dogma, and they take that instead of what William James would propose, probabilistic, reasonable probability, and then everything kind of falls apart. He emphasizes that we're not focused on the church, all right? We're focused on private religious experiences. And private religious experiences always seem heretical, like heresy, okay, to those who witness it at his birth. Classic example would be Jesus. What he said was heretical to the Pharisees, and then a group of people killed him, and then he resurrected or whatever. And, that's a different story entirely. But you can see how private experiences initially seem heretical to the dogmatic organizational church that was founded on a previously heretical. But I hope I made the point, right? But what's interesting is that the new doctrine or experience that's heretical spreads to other people like wildfire, right? And no wonder it's labeled as a heresy, because the religious organization wants to maintain its hold on what is religious truth. But if, in fact, this experience can triumph over persecution, right, it itself becomes the new belief. And that belief then turns into dogma. And once it turns to dogma, we're no longer introspecting. We're no longer looking at it. We're no longer questioning it. And this new dogma creates the new church. And it can always be counted on to stifle the religious spirit and stop all other discussions that really truly existed in the inception of the original experience. And there are probably billions of examples. I won't go into it because a little too controversial for the William James series, but I wouldn't mind talking about it in a separate video instead. But I'll move on to talk about the ecclesiastical spirit, ecclesiastical meaning of the church, right, is a sum of two spirits, according to William James. And that's where all the problems are. The first spirit is the spirit of corporate dominion. And this is where you get immoral actions of religious organizations, right? This is we're a corporation, not really a corporation, but what else a corporation means, that you're corporate, you're one body, right? And you go out and you do things. Sometimes involves killing, not that great. And then the second one is the spirit of dogmatic dominion. And this is where you lay down the law and absolutely close theoretical systems. And therefore, it's very important that you must never mistake the phenomenon of a tribe or a group psychology, right? Doing things versus a very personal religious experience. And we're really focused on the personal experience for this entire lecture series. So he wants to point out that we really shouldn't blame religion for the horrendous and horrible acts we've seen in the past, because rather what we find is that the accusation is actually towards overzealousness and fanaticism. That is the quality of religiosity. And this is part of this sort of duality that William James is trying to point out, that when people become very fanatic, it's the other side of the coin of the religious fruits. So then he will discuss in the next parts of this lecture what that looks like when someone becomes overzealous and does the bad things that usually puts a bad name to religion. So we'll talk about that next time. I hope you enjoyed it. Like and subscribe. See you later. Bye. Hey, sign up for my weekly newsletter. I send out emails every week on psychiatry and religion. I realize that email is a great way to go deep into these topics. So if you want more content, check out chesericpurl.com and subscribe over there. Thanks.